Hello, welcome in everyone to episode 8 of the Batcat Beat here on the KSR YouTube channel. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got my boy Stephen Peak here today, KSR's videographer. We've been doing our rapid reactions all weekend long from Kentucky Proud Park in what was an awesome weekend. Stephen, thanks for having me. How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Just counting down the days until we get on the road for a nice little 12-hour drive to Nebraska. I've never been to Nebraska. I think the furthest west I've been is probably Chicago. It's not very far west. So this will be the furthest west I've been. I am so pumped for this, and I know we're going to preview it a little bit more. But this is one of the, I think, one of like the cooler Kentucky events that I'm going to get to be a part of because of the historical significance. And it feels like this is kind of like, I'm hoping at least like the birth of like years of success in this sport. I mean, like we talk about all the time, all the other SEC teams, almost not all of them, but several of them even like skip basketball coverage and go straight to baseball. Mm-hmm. Now we'll never be that, but I think like we can be at a point where football, basketball, and baseball, at least as far as men's sports go, all matter. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, we saw it the other night, the crowd support that was out, another broken attendance record, and just so much stuff going on. But UK is headed to the College World Series in Omaha. They got it done in just 2 games. Got a little dicey there at the end of the second game, but they got it done. Get out of there, the first College World Series trip in program history. And now it's kind of weird seeing the 16 on the SEC teams because throwing the new guys in there, but now all 16 SEC teams have reached the College World Series, and they'll be well represented this weekend when 4 of the 8 are from the SEC, and then the other 4 from the ACC. But it was just an awesome weekend of really fun baseball, especially that second game. Like usually those 3-2 games, there's not much to write about, but this one you could have wrote 3,000 words on just everything that went in this game, the emotion, the plays, the pitching, oh my gosh. But we'll jump into to game 1 because game 1 was a lot of fun and never really got dicey. A 10-0 win. UK came out early, kind of punched them in the mouth. 1 run in the first or in the second, 2 runs in the fifth, and then the 7th inning just opened up. You kind of, I know we touched on a rapid reaction, but your kind of thoughts on that wild 7th inning and just everything that happened there.
I know we talked about this in the rapid reaction, but I think going into this super regional, I didn't have like it, and again, this has nothing to do with anybody on this current team. It has nothing to do with Nick Mingione or my faith in what these players can do. It's just we haven't been there before. So I went into this super regional knowing that Kentucky had a decent chance, but just the idea that they're going to the College World Series if they won 2 games was just like, it felt so far-fetched that I didn't believe it was going to happen. I don't know if that makes me a bad fan or not. Maybe it does. But, you know, it's until you do it, like it's hard for me to. So they put up 7 runs in that 7th inning. Not only that, I don't know what's more impressive, that they put up a 7 spot in the 7th and won the game 10-0, or if it's that they held this potent offense to 0 runs. Because as you know, Daniel, because you've covered them all year, their weak spot has been pitching. Mm-hmm. And man, did the pitching look, I mean, it looked championship caliber this past weekend, don't you think?
Yeah, not even just this past weekend, but even in the regional. I know they gave up 8 to Western Michigan, and 5 of those came in 1 inning. So it's pretty wild to think they've played 45 NCAA tournament innings so far. 5 of the 11 runs they've allowed came in 1 inning, and it was in that first game against Western Michigan. And just looking at that stat there, it's crazy. Because in our preview, I gave the claim, which I still really believed in, that other than Tennessee, I don't think anyone's offense kind of stood toe-to-toe with UK's like Oregon State's did, up and down the lineup. Bazana, McDowell, Turley. And Turley is a guy, not even touching on Bazana yet. Turley's the guy who's hit 5 grand slams, and you're like, man, we're terrified of this guy. Kind of, you got to watch. And then he doesn't even get a hit all weekend. He came up with the bases loaded and just grounded out the third. And then you go to Bazana, 1 for 7, 3 strikeouts, and that dude was losing his mind in the dugout. A little bit of a fraz, but just that continues to show just Mingione against these star players has really figured out a way to neutralize them. I know Charlie Condon, who hit his 36th home run of the season, and Georgia's loss last night, he did nothing against UK. Caglione hit 1 home run against UK. Bazana, 1 with 3 strikeouts. Hagen Smith, UK hits 2 runs off of him in the SEC tournament. It's just continues to show just these skies that the coaching staff puts that emphasis on. Man, just absolutely shuts them down.
I think Bazana, I don't want to get too far ahead but I think in game 2, Bazana came up to bat. I think was it the 7th inning? But he came up in a big spot and struck out. I had heard, and maybe you can confirm this, but I had heard from some fans who were sitting pretty close to home plate or right behind home plate that said he was talking a lot of trash apparently, which is weird. I mean, I can't confirm. I didn't hear it, but according to some people that I trust that were sitting in that area, said man, he really ran his mouth a lot for somebody who ended up going 1 for 7. Now his one hit I thought was going to tie the game. I don't know. You probably had a better vantage point of everything that was happening because you were up in the press box. But when he hit that shot down the right field line, I was surprised that Kentucky was able to hold the runner from first, hold him at third, hold him to and then not allow him to score from first. I thought for sure right there we were going to extras. Of course, prior to that pitch, I'm worried that he's going to take one out of the yard, and Oregon State's going to have all this momentum going into a game 3. But man, Kentucky's and it's their pitching, but it's also they're flashing the leather a little bit too.
Oh man, yeah. I know Grant Smith made the one error where he dropped that fly ball, which was probably
the one error they make is Grant Smith
ever seen, and the one error they made is Grant Smith. But other than that, a big spot that I don't think anyone has talked about yesterday, I believe it was in the 7th inning. Oregon State had runners on first and third with 2 outs. And I believe it was McDowell up, and he had that line drive up the middle, and Grant Smith was right there. And that minute a run from scoring. And he made some really good fielding plays. And then Mitch Daly's diving grab in the 9th inning down the third base line and gets up and fires it across a diamond. It's just it was all systems go on this UK team this past weekend, and that's why they're gaining some national respect. And now you've got guys that are picking them to win the College World Series, which is just mind-blowing to see at this point that they've gotten to.
It is. It's crazy. Going back to that Mitchell Daly play, man, I don't know that I've seen, considering the circumstances, I don't know that I've seen in person a better play.
No.
I think, and you know what? He played it so well. He made it look so routine that I don't think people really understood the significance or how hard that was, how hard of a play it was. Not because he makes the stop. And I'm just grateful that he did that. Because I'm thinking that's 2 bases. I think there was 1 out at the time. So it would have been runner at second, 1 out. You look up there and you go, okay, look who's on deck. Bazana would have been on deck after that. And not only does he make the stop, but he gets up, and I'm almost thinking eat it.
Yeah.
Don't even risk a throw.
Yeah.
And he throws a missile over to first base, and easily one of the best play. I mean, seriously, probably one of the best defensive plays in Kentucky baseball history, considering the circumstances. I agree with you too on that line drive that Smith made the play on, and wasn't it Grant Smith's at bat that led to Kentucky getting the lead? Is that
yes, the strikeout, and then we'll touch on that in a second, but. Yeah. Oh my God. I do think the play that Grant Smith made in the regional against Indiana State was probably a better defensive play when he ran all the way to left field and snagged that one. But considering the circumstances, I would give it to Daly because that, like you said, that guy, if that got down that third base line, that guy would have got to second. The 9-hole hitter would have came up, and who knows what they would have done differently with him. Probably might have still walked him. Then now all of a sudden you have runners on first and second. Bazana hits that double, and that's a run. And then you'd have runners first and third again, and who knows what would happen from there. But, man, awesome weekend. But one thing I did want to touch on back to game one was Trey Poozer.
Yes,
this guy is just in his zone right now.
Look at that stat line. That's crazy.
7 innings, 1 hit, 0 earned, 8 strikeouts. And that's not an anomaly. Like, I think it's now since the end of the regular season, so 3 postseason games against Arkansas in the SEC tournament. I believe it was Illinois in the regional and Oregon State in the first game of the super regional. Poozer's pitched 19 innings and has given up 1 earned run. And I think just 5 hits. Like, who saw that coming? And he is another guy that, like, these national guys are opening their eyes to, and they're like, who is this guy that's down here just dominate? Like, Oregon State has such a good reputation offensive-wise. The guys at D1 Baseball picked them 6-3 to win the series this weekend, and they only get 3 hits and 2 runs. Insanity.
That is, 3 hits and 2 runs. And not to mention, their 2 runs happened in an inning where they didn't register a hit.
Yeah.
So it's almost, they're lucky they even got on the board, Daniel. They're lucky they even got those 2 runs. And I know, I think their coach said after game 1, he said something to the effect of, yeah, we didn't get very many hits. You got a hit. But he said, like, but we drew base on balls, like they were throwing around our guys, well, yeah, of course they are. You guys, those sticks in the lineup, of course they're going to be thrown around. And yeah, you're not wanting to put something right over the middle. Like what inning was that when, I know Devin Burke was talking about it, how he's like, okay, he's, I think it was Hogan was the pitcher, maybe.
The play that Daly made, he called for an inside slider and he hung it right down the middle and he hit it. It on the baseline to Daly, and he was like, he just saved you on that one.
Yeah. So that's again, like what I was saying earlier, like that is what impressed me the most, that what they were able to do on not when they're, not at the dish, because the offense is going to be there. Were you a little surprised that they really didn't get the bats going too much in the second game?
No, because I figured after like a 10-0 game, the next game, I believed it was going to be a dogfight. I actually picked Oregon State to win and even it up.
Man, you picked Oregon State to win twice. You just got to start picking NC State.
I just thought that Oregon State would get a win. I did not. I
whatever you got to do, man. Whatever, if you got to pick NC State and whoever else.
Him in Florida, but I did not believe, I couldn't get it in my head that UK would just go out here and win 2 games to nothing and go to the Super Regional and go to the College World Series. It's just to wrap your head around that. It's just insane. Yeah, like that game 2, they went 3-2, and Nolan McCarthy, man, was the absolute hero of this game. That he had the two doubles down the third base, and then we got to talk about that play at home.
I love the picture here. Yeah,
that actually might be the best baseball play I've ever seen in person, considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
Because
coach said, I'm sorry, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Just the way that UK is heading to the College World Series for the first time ever on a swinging strikeout that goes to the backstop. Grant grabs second, and Nolan comes and base running. And so I know I sent you the picture the other night, was the 6 keys to offense, and it's like base running, base stealing, plate aggressiveness, plate vision. There might be 2 more, but just using the Minjion ball, man, the base running and base running aggressiveness, and that's ultimately what put them over the edge.
Yeah, and I think he did go through not necessarily a stop sign, but I think Minjion said he may have told him, like, stay here, but he's got the play in front of him, and he sees that for whatever reason the pitcher's not covering home plate. And I don't know if it's one of those situations where it's like you're a pitcher, you just got a big strikeout. But that'd have been the second out of the inning, I think.
Yeah.
So you think like, all right, we're 1 out away. The ball gets, the catcher doesn't do the first 5 letters of his position.
Yeah.
We're not going to count. Just don't count that. But like he doesn't do so like the ball gets by him, and are you little just like, damn man, like how do you let the ball go by you? Like I just threw a good pitch, got a good hitter out, and we're about ready to get out of this inning with the game tied.
Yeah.
And he just lost his mind for a minute. And McCarthy, and you think about how quickly he had to make that decision. When he rounded third and I knew he was going to make it, but then when you get to the end of the play, it's like, I mean, it was close. I mean, he's clearly got in, but it was a lot closer than I thought it would be. I mean, if the pitcher's covering there, he maybe doesn't even go.
No.
And the pitcher had some time, but I guess he's just not thinking like, that runner from second's not going to try to go 180 feet. It is weird, man. It'd be like I'm familiar with baseball, like droughts as a Cub fan. That would be like, I couldn't imagine if like the Cubs like won the pennant on something like that. It's so perfect it's perfect because of Kentucky never making it, and that's how they do it. But it's also perfect because this is how Mangione's teams play. They're aggressive on the base paths. They play smart, and that was the mixture of the two right there.
Yeah, I guess you make that decision halfway from second to third, and that's an amazing tape for every little league coach around the country to be like, pitchers, this is what you do not do on a pass ball. You've got to play your position, because even if he was just standing like near home plate, I don't think Nolan would have attempted it. But dude was just like slowly creeping in, like throwing his hands up, and the catcher was kind of lollygagging, and that's when he really had to put on the Jets as Nolan got closer to home. But I knew he would be safe.
His jersey was too tight. I don't know if he was the whole time he's throwing every pitch, he's doing this and he can't get his sleeves to move. Like, well, let's get you a better fit. Jersey screaming, I can't, I don't fit you.
Why does it seem like every college pitcher has like something wrong with him? Like I was watching the Georgia NC State game last night, and Georgia had a pitcher who would like back high step after every pitch, and he'd like shake. And then you had like the LSU guy last year who's doing all this on the mound and wiping his forehead every time, and it seems like every college pitcher has like something wrong with them. And I noticed that with the guy's jersey the other night. Baseball
players are weird, man. Like they were just weird. Like you had Nomar who would do the batting gloves in between every pitch. I got a theory on we can talk about it a little bit more on the way there, but I got a theory on why baseball players are so superstitious, and it kind of stems from like it's a game of failure, So everybody around you, when you're on a good baseball team or just on any baseball team, everyone's doing like the same workouts. Everyone's doing, but somebody can throw the ball 95 miles per hour, and other people, no matter what, like they can't do it. So I think it's like a part of it is like I don't even know why I'm good at this. Like I just can do it. I don't really know why. Or you're at the plate, you get out 7 out of 10 times, you're a Hall of Famer. So just that game of failure. I don't know. I don't know if that explains why pitchers are constantly doing. I felt like the guy for Oregon State. I'm blanking on his name right now, but yeah, every pitch was just like constant. Like he's just not comfortable in the uniform.
Was it Keljo? I think his last name was Keljo or something like that. Something.
Similar. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, I think they just need to look into like a bigger uniform for him, something he can feel a little more comfortable in.
Yeah.
Throwing in a super regional.
Yeah. Yeah. Here it is. That's what I was talking about. 45 innings pitched in the regional in the tournament so far. They're 5-0, 10 earned runs, good for a 2 ERA. But if you take out that Western Michigan game, I mean, you're looking at what would it be? 36 innings and 2 earned runs or 3 earned runs or whatever it is, just on another level. And it's so ironic that all season long here on the Back Hat Beat on our show, we were talking down about the pitching, and I remember throwing up graphics every week for Florida and Vanderbilt and Arkansas and Tennessee, and be like, well, the team had a 10-8 ERA this weekend, and they lose 2 of 3, and Mason Moore gets shelled against Carolina, and then Cam O'Brien was really struggling at the time, and now those guys are just hitting their stride. We haven't even touched on the bullpen yet. Like Cam O'Brien, this dude is dealing right now, and that's why I make the joke on KS Board because they kind of act the same way like that. We would talk on the show. It's like every time Cam O'Brien would come in, there would always be runners on second and third or bases loaded or something with one out. It seemed like every single time, and every single time he'd give up an RBI single or a 2-run double or something like that. But last night or the night before, he comes in 3 dominant innings. And then in the regional, I think he pitched Indiana State. He was dominant in that one too. And then Johnny Hummel coming in and getting the last out. And Robert Hogan as well was awesome. And so it just seems like things are really clicking at the same time for all of these guys. I think the only drawback was maybe Mason on Sunday. Like he started out good, but his control just really lost it. I think that would probably be the one drawback that I would say of anything this weekend, but really overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, and with Mason Moore, I mean, I'm looking at a stat line right now from the game on Sunday night or Monday morning, however you want to look at it. But he was 3 and a third, two runs, one earned. I mean, that's the other thing too that we forget about Mason Moore. Yeah, he did walk 6 in 3 and a third. That's not great. But if Grant Smith makes that catch, maybe Moore is able to go. He probably finishes the 4th.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's I'm not. I mean, look, they won the game, so I'm not sitting here like bashing Grant Smith, obviously, but he's been solid for Kentucky all year. But I think like him dropping that ball, like put Moore in a tough situation. Instead of a runner at first and one out, you have runners at first and second and nobody out. So, I 6 walks, that's not great, but no one was really hitting him. What did he get? How many hits did he give up? 0, I think. Yeah, 0. So, and he struck out 4. I mean, I kind of feel like I'll take that.
I mean, they weren't getting contact on him. They were either striking out or walking, it seemed.
And it also doesn't it seem like Mingione's just making the right calls? Like he's in this whole NCAA tournament, I haven't really noticed where maybe you left somebody in a little bit too long in one of the early games, maybe Western Michigan. But other than that, like he's going to the pen and those guys are coming through for Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I know that was a point on KS Board all season. And we get in these games and someone will be struggling and everyone's like, Nick, take him out. And then he'll leave him in and then give up an extra 2 or 3 runs or so. And he was kind of not great at that over the last stretch of the season of leaving guys in maybe too long. I know Mason was bad at that with Mason, and then Nyman was kind of not great at that either. But it does seem like he has made the right decision every time so far. Like in that first game, Hoosier goes 6, and I was like, okay, if I were coaching, I would take him out here because he was at maybe 90 pitches, and I was like, he was kind of losing the velocity on the end. I was like, maybe you take him out here and let's get 3 solid innings from the pen. But he trots him back out there, and what's he do? 1, 2, 3 inning. And then to have the guts to make that call on Sunday night there's 2 outs in the 9th, runner on first, and he brings Hagenow in. Hagenow gives up that single to Bazana, so now there's runners on first and third. And you, instead of sticking with your guy, you make the decision to bring in Johnny Hummel, who has not pitched in the tournament yet. And what's he do? 3-pitch strikeout to end the game.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll be honest. And this is why I don't coach college baseball. And, I don't know the guys, obviously, like Mingione does, but I was like, hey, let's keep Bobby Spence in.
Yeah.
Like he's thrown the last 2 innings solid, got a runner at first. Let's just let him do his thing. But no, there was nobody on. He walked. That's right. He walked the guy, right? And then Hagenow came in and faced faced their best hitter. But I was like, hey, look, he's comfortable out there. I'm not so sure in this situation with what's on the line that I would want to bring somebody in to inherit, this inning. And especially when he brought in Johnny Hummel, the game tying run is 90 feet away. 90 feet away from this going to extras, an extra base hit away from Oregon State forcing a game 3, and then you'd feel like you just lost a ton of momentum. Oregon State's going to be fired up. I mean, I just didn't want this to go to a game 3 because it's very important you win game 1. And when they did that, you're like, all right, you're 1 game away. But there is something about if you lose game 2, game 3 is suddenly like, but we had it. Now we have to win 1. Now we have to win 1 over out, and we had it. So. I mean, I was just, I'm very grateful we didn't cover a baseball game on Monday because when I think I got back home at around 4:50 a.m. on Monday morning, so would have been a pretty drastic turnaround. But yeah, man, the bullpen was great. They have been great, really since the SEC tournament. How many teams? I want to look this up, and maybe. I don't know if you know the answer off the top of your head. I would like to know, though, how many teams out of the remaining 8 have a perfect 5-0 record in the NCAA tournament right now?
A&M is 5-0. Oh, man. I had
Tennessee lost.
Tennessee lost. I think Virginia is actually 5-0 also. So I think A&M, Virginia... And I've got it right here. It is North Carolina, Florida State, or no, never mind. This is awful podcasting right here.
Yeah, we're sorry. I've got to put you on the spot there, trying to look stuff up in real time. But
I had it in my preview, and now I'm trying to find where it was at. Okay, yeah. Florida State, Texas A&M, Virginia, and UK are all 5-0. So half the field went undefeated throughout the tournament. Yeah. So, and I love the stat that Corey Price put out yesterday. What was it? It was 6 of the 10 SEC teams that have won it all since '99 were 5-0 heading into the College World Series.
Ooh, that stat.
Yeah.
Well, somebody else said this speaking of Twitter, somebody else said, or asked me, is this the biggest win in Lexington in UK athletics history? And you and I were kind of talking about it through text, and I think 07 LSU is obviously one that ranks up there. Maybe even 07 Louisville, although they turned out to not be all that good. I don't think they even went to a bowl. But at the time, it was pretty significant to beat Louisville. I was at the LSU game, and I remember the whole campus like going crazy, partying, kind of like a Final Four. But outside of like maybe those 2, do you have any more that you think that could trump this one? Because you don't typically, obviously you don't play postseason games in Lexington very often.
Yeah, I remember Minge said this at the presser before the tournament started. He was like, "In what other sport can you clinch a championship on your home field?" And that's what they did the other night. So just on regular season victories, because until Kroger Field maybe hosts a playoff game, and since that can happen now, I would say like you had some 2 good ones, but maybe UK football against Florida in 21 when they broke the home losing streak.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's
LSU
a good one.
Also that season I think was pretty big to kind of just establish themselves among the SEC. And then obviously basketball ones over the years, like 03 Florida when they drilled them when they were number 1 in the country. North Carolina, the John Wall year and the Davis block. And there have been some big ones over the years, but nothing in terms of like this magnitude of clinching a championship and just being on the verge of an overall national championship.
Yeah, and we mentioned it on the rapid reaction. We're going to be we're going to be up there, over there, wherever it is, in Omaha with Tennessee fans, and there are programs out there, Daniel, who have been to both a College World Series and a Final Four, and then there are some who haven't been able to do both of those things. So I will appreciate some like banter with some Tennessee fans while we're there, because they're going in believing that they're going to win a championship. Now, I believe this is true. I think the last championship that they won in a men's sport was back in 1998. When were you born?
2002.
So you have never seen Tennessee men's sports win anything of significance.
No.
So that's going to be fun. I really can't wait for that. And we can't, like, obviously we want Kentucky to win. If Kentucky can't win, then literally anyone but them. Literally anyone but Tennessee win in anything. I mean, they have very much for me surpassed Louisville as the program that I want to lose at everything.
I've been on that take since maybe 2020, like right when the tides kind of turned and Louisville was good in 1920, but then COVID happened and all that stuff. And then Tennessee in 21, 22, they just start running that mouth, man. And it helps.
They beat Alabama, and then they haven't shut up for a couple of years.
Yeah, it definitely helped with Louisville not being good, but hopefully Louisville being good kind of brings that back. Because I would much rather deal with Louisville fans than Tennessee fans. Because I don't know how you feel about this since you live in Louisville, but I feel like Louisville banter is always like kind of like fun or in good taste. But the Tennessee stuff is nasty.
Not on my timeline.
Yeah. For you, I'm sure it's a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, I got so many friends who are Louisville fans, and I'm using the word friend loosely here. You know, you can't divorce your friends, Daniel. You're just stuck. And if they're Louisville, you played on a baseball team with a guy who, his family is a Louisville fan, and it doesn't matter until you're a little bit older, and you're like, man, why am I friends with this asshole? Like, he's just gonna send me texts whenever Louisville does anything. Oh, we won in volleyball, beat you all in volleyball. I'm like, all right. I mean, okay, that's great. Good for the volleyball team. I love Kentucky volleyball. Don't want them to lose to Louisville, but like everything. I mean, when they're good at anything, Daniel, they run their mouths. And maybe it's always been like that with Tennessee, but I just didn't, because I'm gonna be honest. You don't really want to get into like a Twitter war with, a team that like dominated you in football for so many years. And, like we beat them in basketball most of the time. Even when we're bad, we beat Tennessee in basketball. If there was, I want you to imagine what's very, very, very possible. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Kentucky, Tennessee for a national championship.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that just a few minutes ago. Just imagining the scenes of that and just the nastiness of social media that would come out of that with whichever team was to win. Oh my God. That would cure like the entire offseason. That would help the entire offseason until football starts with content, until Tennessee and UK play at football, whenever that is. Like that will be all that's discussed is what happens there. And I guarantee you, if that was to happen, so many more UK fans would flock.
That's what exactly.
And Tennessee would too, and I think it would be an amazing atmosphere.
It would be one of the best. I wonder though, if for Tennessee, do you think that I know that they hate Kentucky, but is there a team that's on this other side that would be like a bigger matchup? Because for Kentucky fans, like it's Tennessee, like it absolutely is. Is there anybody, because we're still new at this baseball thing. Hey, we just kind of messed around and now we're in the College World Series, other programs, I mean, that's what's interesting to me too about this whole thing is that like all these SEC teams who, again, we know this when working it on 3, they'll basically just be like, look, our basketball team sucks. We're moving on to cover baseball as soon as February hits. And all those people a lot of them are, and they're not going to this. A lot of those teams aren't going. And they're all looking up at Kentucky, who won the SEC crown alongside Tennessee. So I'm looking at maybe Florida would be the other team but I know, man, I think it's a dream scenario for college baseball if Tennessee and Kentucky are in the championship game.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I'm glad you kind of brought up the bracket because it's a nice little segue for what we got here. The bracket, the Final Four teams: Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida State, NC State, Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, and Texas A&M. The SEC, ACC Invitational. We were talking about this before we went on. Maybe I wish we could kind of go back and do some revisionist. Maybe swap Tennessee and NC State. You could really have like an SEC, ACC, but Yeah, just imagining the scenes of a Tennessee and UK national championship would be insane. And then just think another possible matchup is Florida and Florida State. Like I'm sure their fans are on that big time also. So you could get two in North Carolina and NC State also. I didn't even realize
that is wild. I did not even
matchups that you could get here.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't even. I'm so focused on Kentucky. That would be. I mean, any of these matchups would be, and then then it'll end up being like Virginia versus A&M, and none of that will. But yeah, man, I even thought like Kentucky versus North Carolina. You have the two basketball schools, playing in the College World Series would be kind of neat. I do hope though that when Kentucky advances and continues winning games in this thing, that the Big Blue Nation will make the trip out there, because you look at that video from last year or any other previous years, and what those baseball schools, I don't know if I'm using air quotes correctly, but whatever, those baseball schools like LSU and Ole Miss, like the kind of fans that they bring, and it's a unbelievable atmosphere in Omaha, and it's going to be. But I hope that Kentucky fans, because we're new at this, understand, and it's asking a lot. I can't believe like some of these fan bases are able to go and be there for 10 days, as many of them that go. Cause that what does that ballpark hold? Do you know? Charles Schwab.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah. I'm just going to look that up real fast, but that's what, like, when you're watching those games, like I said, when I was a kid, I would watch the College World Series. I loved watching it. And it's just, my team just never participated in it. Yeah. So the atmosphere's there. It's so different than, obviously, because you have two fan bases for every game. It's a different feel when you watch on TV than like watching a World Series, Major League Baseball game. Mm-hmm. And I love college sports atmospheres are just better in every sport.
Yeah,
they just are. Like the pageantry, the civic pride, it's like they wear Kentucky across their chest. So like that's my state. We don't have a pro team. Like that's our pro team. That's what we all rally behind. It's 24,000 also. So, there'll be 24,000 people there. And that's gotta be, that's what's, man, I just love this so much, because I'm just thinking about like what these Kentucky players are going to feel like going onto that field in front of 24,000 people. They've never played in front of a crowd like that before.
No. How many UK fans do you think will make the trip?
I was going to ask you that, because to me, this is just, it's so new. Like we take over Nashville, we take over Tampa, we take over St. Louis, wherever the SEC tournament is for basketball. Our football crowd travels really well. But this is new. There's a lot of new baseball fans. We don't plan for baseball games in late June. So that's what I'm saying, though, that this is a start of something. Like people who will go this time will go back when Kentucky returns to the College World Series, whether that's next year or in 5 years.
Yeah. This
is how you like build a program that is like, people are going to get a taste of this and want it more and more. When the basketball team loses next year, or when they hang number 9, there's going to lull in sports for a little bit. You can't really get too excited about Major League Baseball because they got 5 months left in their season. And so people are going to gravitate to Kentucky baseball. Mm-hmm. This is so massive for what, and you're going to see from this, there's going to be those bleachers they put up in left field. Like, I fully believe that as this thing keeps rolling, when people start expecting them to be good and money's funneled into this program and people are going to games and more people are buying season tickets, and those February games in 30-degree weather, there's still 5,000 people, 6,000 people there. There's going to be additions to the stadium. Like it's going to grow, and you're going to get better players, and you're going to get, hell, it's hard to imagine putting a better team together than what they've done this year, but you're going to attract a lot of talent. It's obvious that if you're a baseball player who wants exposure and wants to be a part of a winning team, you're going to go to the SEC.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I had a kid, I'd want him playing for Nick Mingione.
Yeah.
So, like, the one thing that was probably very difficult to do at Kentucky is recruit, as far as like recruiting baseball players, is to like, okay, we don't have as many fans as like Arkansas, LSU. Well, that's going to change. I really believe like this is where that changes. And this is a big moment for Kentucky. I'm not saying they have to go and win it. I think they got to win. You got to win one game. You can't go 0-2 and go home. Because this is where you bring on new fans. And Big Blue Nation is massive. I didn't realize how many Kentucky fans there were until I started working this job.
Yes.
And realized like it's not confined to the Commonwealth. It's not confined to the United States. And we talked with people in England when we were there, people from Spain, France. I can't remember all the countries. We talked to people who got on board because of Kentucky basketball, but now they're football fans. Now they're going to be baseball fans. They're women's basketball fans, and now they're volleyball fans. Like that. This is a worldwide thing, and you're going to see the support coming for the baseball team. Just like how much do you think like football during the Joker Phillips era? Did you feel like people jumped off and it took a while to get them back on?
Yeah, I would say a lot. And I think it took probably till I think that the big turning point in football was the South Carolina in 14 game. That's kind of, I think, where we kind of came back after
just getting started.
Years. We're just getting started, bro. But I wanted to touch on the crowd real quick before we move on to NC State, who UK will be playing Saturday at 2:00 Eastern time, 1:00 Central time. But just the crowds that they've seen, just going back to last season. So this is the second year that I've been at every single home game, and those ones last year at the beginning of the year, like I could probably count like the head count of people that were either like sitting on the berms or sitting in the seats, and it'd be like February, and they'd be playing like, man, like I'll use a Ryan Limitism, and they'd be playing Poop State. and you're sitting there, and it's freezing cold, and there's 8 people there, and there's me and maybe one other media person, and you're like, man, like you've got this really, really beautiful stadium, and it's just dead. And to go from that to what we had Sunday night in just a span of 2 full seasons has been really, really incredible to see. And that's why I think the BBN will show up in Omaha. And I'm telling you, I would put money that out of the 8 teams, UK is top 3 in the Jello shot counter. That's going to be my.
This is good. 3, huh? All right.
I think Tennessee will take it, number 1.
Tennessee, hey, look, they're gonna win that.
Yeah.
There's not much. I will say this about Tennessee: they are the most obnoxious. They are low down, dirty, and some snitches. But there's one thing that I absolutely have to tip my hat to, and it's their passion.
Yeah,
they care just as much as any other fan base cares, and they care about all 3 of their sports. I've said Alabama fans are coming around to basketball, but I have some Alabama friends, and again, they just skip right over that, and then they don't really care about baseball. They're just like, we kick everybody's ass at football, and that's all we want to do. I will give Tennessee fans credit. They show up for basketball, they show up for football, obviously, and they show up for baseball. Kentucky fans are doing that now too, but I will give them a little bit of credit for that. And Tennessee fans, that place is gonna be, when they're playing. I mean, you're gonna know who the well, I guess it's baseball home and away, it alternates, but you're going to know who has the home field advantage.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that Kentucky fans show up. We can't be just in a sea of that ugly ass orange.
No. And
no.
I really hope not. But
so you think they'll win that? You think Kentucky finishes 3rd?
I think they'll finish top 3. I would say.
Can you just explain to people what that is? What we're talking about?
I wish I was going to put a graphic up, but I forgot. So there's a bar in Omaha named Rocco's, and they sell these $5 Jello shots, and I believe $2 of every shot goes to charity or something. I think that's why they're so expensive, and that's why they kind of do this to raise money for charity. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's a really good cause. So they get a whiteboard up and they put all 8 SEC or all 8, hell, pretty much SEC. They put all 8 teams that are in the
it's always an SEC team that wins it feels like.
Yeah, so they put them all up on this whiteboard. And so when you go and order a Jello shot, you tell them what team you want to tally for. And so they'll put that up, and whoever has the most tallies, I don't think they win anything. I think they just get pride, or they might get a trophy or whatever. But last year, LSU shattered the record. Steven, do you know how many Jello shots that LSU had last year?
Okay, I just saw this little documentary ESPN did about Ole Miss because they shattered the record when they were there. I don't know what year it was.
Yeah, 22 or 20.
Okay, so that was pretty recent. All right, so LSU, man, I don't even know really where to guess. So this is because I guess the longer your team is there, the better chance you have of obviously winning that too. Did they get up to like 500 or something?
It was 68,000 Jello shots.
Did you say 68? That's 6,800.
68,000.
All right.
And
I don't know if it's safe to try to beat that record.
No, it will not be beat until LSU goes back. Well, I believe Todd Graves, the Canes guy, I think he bought 10,000 of those or something like that. I think that helped.
Dang.
Yeah.
68,000. You're only there for like
2 weeks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But what was the record? Do you know what the record was before that?
I have no idea. But I just know it was just absolutely shattered.
Man, there's if you type in Jello shot RE, it immediately just says. So yeah, 68,888 shots.
God.
What? Todd Graves, he bought 6,000.
I mean, it's going to a good cause, so that's
wow.
Yeah. And so,
if it was an all SEC final, we could probably cure cancer.
Oh,
with as many Jello shots as
there's so if you've got 68,000 and you're selling them for $5 a pop, and then $2 of every single one is going to charity, my goodness, like they were raking those in. But I want to go ahead and hit this real quick, so won't stay on here too long. We're already at the 48-minute mark, but I'm gonna throw.
Hey, real quick, Daniel. I just wanted to 18. The previous record. You know what the previous record was? 18,777. So they beat it by 50,000. Like that's wow. They don't mess around in the Bayou.
God, but oh my God, yeah. But go and looking at the overall field and just the times. Got to get close because it's a little small, but we'll get underway on Friday, June 14th, 1 o'clock. North Carolina and Virginia. Tennessee will play Florida State also on Friday. And then the next 2 slated games will be on Saturday between UK and NC State and A&M in Florida. And then they'll alternate days that they play, which is nice down there. Give those guys a day off in between games. And so if UK were to go the whole way in the winners bracket or so, UK would play on Monday if they won against NC State. But if they lost, I believe, it's still on Monday, but then they'd have to play on Tuesday and Wednesday. So let's hope they can get all the way through. I believe the championship game would be on Saturday and Sunday, and then game 3 would be on that Monday. So realistically, we could be in Omaha from June 15th through June 24th.
Yeah. And here's where, like, the way this is set up, having those days off, if you win on Saturday and then you win on Monday, and then if you can win on Wednesday, I mean, think about what that does for your bullpen and for your starters. I mean, it's huge. Winning that game losing on Saturday, I don't know how many teams have been able to win the whole thing after losing their first game, but you can look at this bracket and see you use your ace here, and then you got your second guy that's would have to pitch, here on Monday, and then turn around, and you're going deep into your rotation by Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So if you got to keep winning, I mean, it becomes very, very difficult, especially when we've talked about it all year, when Kentucky's pitching hasn't been like their strength, although it arguably has been their last 5 games. But still, that's also because they were able to throw their best arms. So you get into a situation where you're playing. I mean, that would be 4 games in 4 days. I mean, that and if you can, especially if you win game 1 and you're able to get a break on Sunday and then another break on Tuesday, and then you win the game on Wednesday, you get 2 days off to get ready for that first of the best of 3 in the championship round. So crucial, I think, to win. I mean, obviously you don't want to lose the first game, but I think if you really want a legit shot at this, it's very important to win that 1 p.m. Central Time game on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the stats are on teams that have won their first or lost their first game and went on to win the national championship. I would assume that there's not many, if there even is one, because what a task that would be. But I'm going to go ahead and look at NC State, who UK will open up against. NC State won the Raleigh Regional. I believe they were the number 10 seed in the NCAA tournament, and then they went on the road to Athens and knocked off Georgia. I would say their regional wasn't the strongest at all. Like, this goes back to, I mean, obviously UK kind of blew through the regional, but Bryant, South Carolina, and James Madison, I don't think were any of the strongest teams. Carolina was the last 2 months of the season, their coach was on the way out. Like, it was kind of well known. And so they went down easily. James Madison went down, and then props to NC State because they blew Georgia out of the water in the first game. Then they got blown out of the water in the second game, but then they went out last night and hit some just absolute moon shots. I'm not sure if you were watching or not, Steven, but
I was. Yeah,
they hit 3 solo shots, and they were all just like, they didn't just clear the wall; they were moon shots. But NC State does have good wins. They played Carolina, who's still alive, in the field of 8, Florida State, who's still alive in the field of 8, and Virginia. So they've got wins over every other ACC team that is still in the College World Series. So a big step up, but I still think pretty manageable for UK. If you were to go and look at their stats and team stats, nothing really blows you away, which was kind of surprised when I saw that. I think they had a team ERA of around 6 this season, which was 10th in the ACC. And it was like 150th in the NCAA. So, I mean, good props to them for getting here. I know we were talking about this before we go on, but NC State is now in the College World Series. They made the Final Four in men's basketball, and they also made the Final Four in women's basketball. And their alum from NC State won the cheese rolling competition in Ireland. Yeah.
I was actually looking at the game from last night. Georgia got up 2-0, and I thought for sure. I thought that second game was just an anomaly, and I thought Georgia was a much better team. Maybe it's my SEC bias. I don't like watching those kind of games because I don't want to sit there and be pulling for NC State only for them to end up beating Kentucky anyway. Yeah. So I kind of just try to watch with no real rooting interest, which is very difficult to do, especially like Georgia went up 2-0, and I was like, oh man, Georgia's actually pretty good. Maybe we don't want to play them. But NC State, I mean, look at what they did in this series. I mean, 8 runs in the last game. Was it? Did you say 11 runs in game 1?
I think they had 16. I think it was like 16.
Okay, so the second game was 11. Okay. Yeah, you're right. 15 hits last night. They, I thought I think it was 6-4. Georgia was trailing, but they were 6-3. Sorry, and they had a couple runners on. I thought that was a good opportunity for them to tie things up. And credit NC State, man. That losing that first game, or losing that second game, I kind of thought Georgia was just like it flipped the switch, and they were going to be able to. I thought they might run them off the field in game 3. But is there anybody, as far as like their pitching? This is where like even that Western Michigan game worried me, because all it takes is you got one ace. If you got one guy who can keep a great offense off the scoreboard. I mean, baseball is a weird sport, and it's one of those sports where I'm like, hey, can a single A team could beat a Major League Baseball team on a random night, or if you played it 100 times, a single A team would win a few. With that being the case, I think Kentucky's a much better team than NC State, but the best team doesn't always win in the NCAA tournament. We know that. We're very familiar with that premise. So is there a guy that NC State has on the hill that worries you and makes you think that Kentucky could easily get upset in round 1?
I mean, the guys with their 2 best numbers were Ryan Marone and Jacob Dudon, who have a 3.97 ERA and a 4.4. But in those games 1 and 3, which NC State won, they started Highfield and Whitaker, who have over a 5 ERA. But they both pitched really well against Georgia. I believe Highfield went like 7 and gave up just a few hits, and Whitaker was really good as well. I think he went 5 innings and just had a few hits also. He gave up those 2 early runs, and I'm kind of in the same boat as you were, Steven. I was sitting there and I'm getting my preview ready. Like I was ready to have it out at the last out, and Georgia goes up 2-0. I'm like, all right, like let me go ahead and get started and start writing about Charlie Condon and Trey Phelps and all these guys. And then all of a sudden I exit the living room and I come back out and it's 2-2. And I was like, oh, like, okay, here we go. And then NC State goes up 4-2 and then 5-2, and then they got it done. So props to them. But they do have some good players: Alec McCarowicz, Garrett Pennington, Jacob Cozart. I believe Jacob Cozart is a good catcher prospect. I think he's top 5 in the draft or something like that. But he's been really good in the games that I've watched. Serrano last night had 3 hits and a home run. But just looking at their pitching stats, like nothing really blows me away. I was more concerned possibly playing Georgia again just because of how UK dominated them earlier this season, and I know they'd be probably upset about that. I think they outscored Georgia like 37-13 in the 3-game series. That was their SEC.
It was the first SEC series of the season, right?
Yeah, and so I was kind of worried about that, and then just Georgia's been good. Like they went on a run in the regular season, but I was kind of shocked NC State beat them. I was kind of excited to have 5 of the 8 teams from the SEC so we can hoorah some more, but. Yeah, NC State, they'll open against NC State, and after that, we'll go to game 2. So they'll play, if they win or lose, they'll play the winner of Florida or Texas A&M or the loser of Texas A&M, whoever wins or loses that game, which obviously is a step up in competition from NC State, right?
Yeah, and you just kind of mentioned it. The only reason I wanted Georgia to win, and I don't know if it helped Kentucky really, but I would like, man, it'd been kind of cool if that whole side of the bracket was all SEC teams. And because we believe that the SEC is the premier conference. Well, damn, man, for like everything now. I mean, what are they not good at? Basketball, football, baseball, volleyball. What else? I don't know if they're very good. And Kentucky's good at volleyball, but I don't know if anybody else in the SEC is. But I mean, the SEC is just is so dominant at baseball. We've said it's harder to win the SEC tournament than it might be the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And basically almost had an SEC tournament there in bracket 2. So as far as like who I'd rather play in this, obviously, if I had to pick, I would probably say Florida. But they're hot right now. I mean, there's the final 8 teams. Everybody's playing well at this point. You don't get to this point. You don't get to almost said Williamsport. Why is it that baseball? How is it that baseball gets to have 2 like permanent locations? Isn't that weird? Like that they never like moved the College World Series around. That it's just always in Nebraska.
I've never thought about it that way. Like no other sport like has like the Final Four changes spots every year. And man, yeah, I don't know. That is
I
pretty
mean,
wild.
except for like the bowl games, I guess they kind of stay. Like the Sugar Bowl stays in what's that one? Louisiana. I just forgot. That's the Sugar Bowl, right? That's the one in New Orleans.
Yes.
And then obviously the Rose Bowls and the Rose Bowl and blah blah blah. But like as far as like crowning a national champion, I believe because the BCS national championship moves around. So yeah, I just thought that was it's interesting. And does Charles Schwab Stadium, does it get used for anything else other than the College World Series? Like they don't have like a team there that could fill out the 24,000 capacity stadium.
It's like with the SEC, they've got the Hoover Met in Hoover, and it's like that's just used for the SEC tournament and then like travel ball tournaments. But the one in Omaha is too big for like travel ball tournaments. I don't know.
Yeah, 24,000 people aren't probably.
I think earlier in the season, some college baseball teams play there in like an invitational or like a round robin thing. But other than that, and maybe concerts, like I'm not sure what it is used for. Yeah,
that's got to be all it is. It's like concerts, and so it's a beautiful ballpark, and I can't wait to see it in person. And it's just weird that it's like this is what it's for. This is why we built this 24,000 seat stadium, was for these few games that are played in June every year.
All of this is so new to us. We're figuring stuff out along the way. Like
Kentucky baseball history basically started like the last couple seasons.
Yeah,
I will never forget you. Who was it Ryan Strebe and Josh Selby and Josh Shelby? What are those guys that played in that 06 team? But basically, it feels like we're in the infancy stages of Kentucky baseball history. So yeah, all this is new to us.
Yeah. I'm so excited for this next however long we'll be here. I guess we'll be heading down on Friday, get there Friday afternoon, and UK will play Saturday at 1 that time, 2 Eastern time, and then we'll have another full day to shoot content. And then maybe if UK goes 0-2, I think we would only have like 1 full day of content, but hopefully we can keep rolling and just keep having things to do around Omaha. But no matter what, I mean, this weekend we are going to be just pumping out stuff, and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, we were going through the content schedule today, and I know we're going to get some video from that bar, kind of show people what that's like, and then the trip there, because I think we're going through St. Louis, Kansas City, and then we'll have so much content to do around the stadium. This is a bucket list thing for me. I said I wouldn't go until Kentucky played in it, and here we are. So I don't know much about the state of Nebraska, so I'm anxious. I love to learn, so I'll read up a little bit. Don't know, what's their state bird? Do you know what their state bird is?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I see. This is all stuff we're going to learn. So I'm excited to. It's the Western Meadowlark, of course. Who didn't know that?
I knew that. I forgot that.
Yeah, I know. They teach us that, and then you just forget it. But yeah, so I'm excited to finally get to see what this is all about. Some stuff doesn't translate through TV. I do not think that the atmosphere at the Kentucky baseball games last 2 days translated through TV. It's like, I wish we could have taken video from inside the stadium, because when I went back and watched the highlights, it was like, that just doesn't, it was much louder than that. It was much like, I love the way Kentucky fans participate while they're at Kentucky baseball games. Maybe you could argue that they participate more at Kentucky baseball games than they do almost any other sport.
Yeah.
So bring that energy to Omaha.
Yeah, it's so exciting. We'll head out, wrap this up today. Steven, thanks for joining me, my guy. Exciting week ahead of us. Just let everyone know where they can find you and find your work everywhere. So,
well, on X, Twitter, at Stephen Peak, KSR, and then there's where you're probably watching this, YouTube. So go ahead, and if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. And let's where are we at? We're at 35,000. We're trying to get to like 50,000 before the end of sports next season, which we found out the Kentucky sports schedule takes you almost to July now.
Yes.
So you're getting. I mean, look, Kentucky's offseason has been shortened to like 2 months. I think I can handle 2 months. Let's make this a regular thing. I love caring about Kentucky athletics all the way into the summer. And then because once it's over, man, it's just like, what do I do? What do I do with what do I watch?
Yeah,
so
it's the exact thought. I mean, it's the same. It's like this will end at the latest June 24th, which is when we hope it ends with a win. But
I'll
then
take
you'll
June 23rd. I'll take a 2-0 sweep over Tennessee in the finals.
That's even better. Yeah. But then you have all of July and then all of August. And then what is it? August 31st? Is that when UK football opens their season? I think.
August 31st. Got an August game this year.
Yeah. So
they only have the month of July where you don't have a Kentucky sporting event to watch.
Yeah. And that's when you get out, go to the beach and do nothing for a week. And that'll take up a week. And then you get back in August and classes start up, and then
you get the home run derby in July too. That's always kind of fun. The Major League Baseball All-Star game. No. I used to love watching the home run derby. That was like my favorite like July event. And it's for some reason I don't get as excited anymore. But
you know why? It's because they put it on a timer instead of outs.
I hate that. Yeah, you're right. I hate the timer. I'd rather it just be swings or something. You get. Or how about this? I thought of another one. Is that on the home run derby, it's always like somebody's dad or teammate or coach is pitching to them. If you take, that counts. So it puts pressure on the guy throwing you pitches to have to put it in your wheelhouse. Like you can't take pitches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think of the like earliest memories, like that Josh Hamilton home run derby. I believe it was like 08 maybe, where he hit.
Damn, that's an early memory for you. That's so funny.
Well, I was like 6.
6? So, yeah, I know. So,
you're old.
My early memories are in the 90s with like Sammy Sosa, and remember Nomar when he was in Boston, like had a big run there. Sammy Sosa, I think he won it in Milwaukee. I think that's where he won his home run derby. But it used to be one of my favorite events, and what could become one of my favorite events is what we're going to see next week.
Yeah, really excited. We'll get out of here. I think we just hit the hour 6 mark, but hopefully we see you all in Omaha. I know I've seen some rumblings on Twitter about maybe a live Batcat beat in Omaha, or I know there will be one in Omaha, but maybe like it open to the public. But I don't know how many people will show up. If you would show up, let us know in the comments. If we can get 5 people, we'll have a meetup. We'll do some Jello shots at Rocco's and get ready for the weekend. But we will see you all in Omaha. Omaha. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next week.